Ladies and gentlemen, all rise. Court is back in session. Welcome to another exciting episode of The Devil's Due. I am your host, Carl Duty. With me, as always, is the man who's a real American hero that's more than meets the eye. Feel his magic, hear his roar, Mr. Drew Celestino.
Wow.
I'm amped up, sir.
I guess you are.
I'm happy about this episode. We got a lot of fun stuff going on. It's been a big week.
It's big. It is big.
It's massive. You could almost say it's infinite.
Yeah, to a degree. Although the show has to end at some point.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah.
Here we are, sir.
We are here.
How are you? Opening statements. How was your week?
It's been what a week.
So weak.
What a week. Let's not stand on ceremony here. You know what happened within the last 7 days.
Oh, yeah. Marvel happened.
Marvel happened in a big...
Marvel gave us that good
bad
loving.
way. Everything else, usual stuff, man. I'm constructing my basement. It's going well, by the way, albeit labor intensive. We had game night on Friday. Played some good games, actually. I did enjoy both of them.
We had Legacy Time Traveler.
Yes.
Which was it's like a tile placement, worker placement type game.
You got to think backwards.
Yeah, you do have to think backwards. I really enjoyed that game.
It was pretty cool. I would approach my strategy completely differently because it took me a few turns to kind of understand.
Yeah, like with any new game.
Yeah, but I did enjoy that game. It was kind of cool. And then what did we play after that?
Subterra.
Subterra, also a cool game. Although I think we were all a little tired, but we pushed through.
Yeah.
But once we got into the flow of the game, again, good, cool game.
Yeah, I actually got a chance to play that game again the next day, and it was much. Not to say our experience was enjoyable, but like you said, we started it kind of late. We were all really tired, but I clarified a couple of the rules, and it was a much more enjoyable experience. Like the board spread out a lot better in a lot of different directions. It was a lot of fun. I really want to get that one back on the table soon.
Cool. Yeah, so that was Friday, but and like I said, Saturday and Sunday were largely devoted, in my case, to construction, which has been kind of daunting but fun. And I also attended the Basset Hound Blast in Rochester on Saturday. Man, Basset Hound Blast is awesome. You're in a big place, and there's
a blast.
It's a blast, yes. And there's just Basset Hounds running wild all over, frolicking. It was awesome. And
do they play the music from A Christmas Story when all the hounds start running through the house?
No,
so you're
sir.
hearing it in your head now.
I am. But no. Our puppy Bo got adopted, so that was cool. Little Bo got adopted, and that's good. His family's taking good care of him. And unfortunately, his parents didn't get adopted yet, which kind of bums me out because they're real pretty Basset Hounds. So I hope they get home soon because they're very, very good-looking dogs. We saw Joey. I'm not sure if you remember Joey, the Basset. He was there. I got to see Joey again, which was super cool because I love meeting old Fosters again.
Yeah.
So that was fun. That was a good, nice little day there. And so, the construction again has just been crazy. So building some shelving down in the basement. Before you got here today, I was throwing some more in. I still have to kind of figure out a way to finish this off before I go to DC this weekend.
Build the Cobra Island Studios.
It's happening. It is happening. We'll see.
Just don't forget the dome that the fire bat launches on.
It's gonna launch to my dining room.
Need that.
It's kind of important.
If they can launch a missile silo out of a house in Weird Science, we can surely find a way to launch a fire bat out of your house.
They also created a woman from nothing, a Barbie doll.
Have we tried?
I mean,
we have no reason to because we're both happily married to excessively beautiful women.
True, but, anyway, it is Weird Science after all.
Yeah.
But to be honest, the only thing worth discussing, which we're not going to do in this episode so much, is Infinity War, man. We saw Infinity War. We saw it happen.
Yeah.
Spoilers, we're not going to be doing that this episode.
Before I get to my week, just like some quick disclaimers. We have a guest this episode. We were fortunate enough that he was able to give us some time, and this is the date that he was able to do it, so we're more than happy to have him. But also, with the kind of the magnitude that this thing has become and the stuff that has happened in the film, we know there are maybe some of you who haven't seen it yet. So we are going to review Infinity War. It is a bonus episode that's going to come out a little bit later this week. So we wanted to give the right amount of time to our guest, and B, give you guys a little extra time if you haven't had a chance to go to theater to see Infinity War to see that. So there will be an Infinity War review, just not this episode. It's going to come out as a bonus episode a couple days later from now.
Thanos demands our silence for now.
Thanos demands our silence.
But we do have a great interview with Dan Larson from Toy Galaxy this episode.
Yes.
And you guys are really going to... Yes, it was a lot of fun, and I think you guys are going to dig it. So, anyway, Carl, I've been in Marvel on the brain mode all week, more so than usual. So that's me, sir. How was your week?
My week was busy, eventful. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I was doing the single parent thing. Julie had to travel to New York City for work. God bless single parents, man. I was just... That kid's got a boundless source of energy.
And you do not?
No. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak and soggy and gets tired very easily. So yeah, but that was fun. William and I had some good time. Julie came home Wednesday night. Thursday night, as you mentioned, we all went and saw Infinity War. Friday night, we had game night. We discussed that. Saturday was International Tabletop Day, in which I went to Dave and Adam's to partake in. I met up with Alan, my friend Adam, and my friend James, and we played a bunch of games. We played Subterra again, which I had mentioned. We played Azul, which I want to get a copy of as soon as possible because it's a really great game. I think you're really going to enjoy it. What else did we play? We attempted to take down Galactus. Alan and I decided to make a run at Galactus using just the Fantastic Four and the Silver Surfer.
How'd it go?
His minions are cursing the day they ever went up against us.
Wow.
Him not so much.
Oh.
Yeah. Here's what we discovered. Mr. Fantastic, Human Torch, Invisible Woman, really good characters.
Yeah.
Good support while delivering good damage. Silver Surfer and the Thing, not so much. Because I'm thinking Mr. Fantastic, Human Torch, Invisible Woman, Black Bolt, and then maybe Doctor Strange in there. And I think we got a formula there.
All right.
So, but yeah, we were taking down the minions left and right, but it just ultimately it didn't work well. Turn out in the end well for us. So yeah, we got thumped pretty hard in the end. So Saturday night, Julie and I actually played Sagrada together.
Oh,
and she loves it. So that's her. She loves playing that game. She wants to play again. And then Sunday night was my niece Emma's 18th birthday party. It was just like small family gathering, and broke out some Sagrada there and played it with some of their family members, and they loved it too. Drew, I'm spreading the word of board games. The water's fine, folks. Come on in.
It's exploding in popularity.
Yes. So that was our weeks, dear listeners. If you would like to tell us about your weeks, if you'd like to send in any questions to be read on the show or any comments, you can find us at the following locations. You can go find us on Twitter at Devils Do Pod. You can go to facebook.com/devilsdopod. You can email us at thedevilsdopod@gmail.com, or you can find all these resources available to you on our website, thedevilsdopodcast.com. And Drew, we do have some viewer questions.
All right, bring it on.
From the what can I say? From the killer bees of the Devil's Due. We know who they are without the masks, but when they put the masks on, they get deceptive. Mr. Alan Waiters and Mr. J. Gelsomino, starting out with Mr. J. Gelsomino. Carl and Drew, if you could snap your fingers and get rid of 4 characters across Marvel, DCU, Image Comics for better or for a great storyline, who would they be? You can eliminate 4 characters.
Oh, wow.
So you're going to eliminate Deadpool.
He's gone. Red Hood, gone.
Oh. Well, Jason Todd,
Yes. Jason Todd will go back to the grave where he belongs. This is tough. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't prepared for this. Let's. We're going to put. Boy, this is something. You got 4? Because I only got. Let me ponder.
I'm going to get rid of Gwenpool. I'm going to get rid of Spider Gwen.
Okay.
I was, guess I can't get rid of Harley Quinn because I'd be getting rid of her for what she's become, not what she was. And what she was pretty great.
I get where you're coming from.
Oh man, I don't know. Yeah, I have 4 characters. I'm gonna get rid. You know what? I'm gonna get rid of Spawn.
Okay. I was sticking mainly to Marvel and DC, but okay.
Well, he said Image as well.
Oh, Image is it's different. Man, this is really, really, really hard. Dead Air is dead. Yeah. I got nothing, man. I got those 2 off the top of my head. Other than that, I think I can live with most other ones. Although, I'm trying to think if there's any Captain America villains that annoyed me to no end. I'd rather not have seen anymore. But no, there's really not.
What about the writer? What's his name?
Rick Remender?
Yeah.
We can get rid of him. Oh, dude, give me you want me to snap my fingers and get rid of some writers? I can do that off the top of my head easily. Anyway.
All right, so moving on
Couldn't get the 4, I'm sorry.
Moving on to a question for you.
Okay.
If you were the Sorcerer Supreme, would you use the Time Stone to go back to our time in Long Beach? And I am not going to read the rest of the question because it goes into an area that I've said that I would not read anymore. Because, okay, I'm making an official declaration. I'm wearing the Infinity Gauntlet. I'm closing my fist. Jay, if you ask that question again,
Jay's getting finger snapped off the show.
I'm not going to read the question at all. I might not read any of your questions.
You'll read them. Just maybe not on the air.
Yeah. You'll be grounded from the show. You won't be banned because I'm merciful, but you'll be grounded.
Wow. So, I would like to go back in time too, Jay.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just at this point, he's kind of beating a dead horse. We love you, Jay. Let the horse die. Carl, what movie do you feel deserves its own video game? What movie do you feel deserves its own video game the most, and how would you structure it? Fried Green Tomatoes? White Men Can't Jump? Sidekicks? Or Mac and Me?
Oh, Mac and Me.
You know what? I would do Mac and Me, and I would structure it just like the Atari ET game.
So the ripoff is complete.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's got to come full circle. So, all right, Jay, thank you very much for your questions. A kid about the whole grounding you from the show. We love you. I mean, I'm still going to ground you from the show if you send in that question again, but
you're just encouraging him. You know that.
Well, I mean, if he wants to call down the thunder.
All right.
So now moving on to Mr. Alan Waiters, Carl and Drew.
Hey.
What is the correct pronunciation of symbiote?
You just said it, Carl.
Yeah. Is it like symbiote or symbiote?
Well,
as said in the Spider-Man series and the animated series in 1994. I don't care either way.
You know what it's not, though? Symbiote.
That's true.
It's not that.
Yeah.
I know that.
For all the things people have bumped up against from that trailer, that's the one that I just didn't bother me that much.
It hit me in the face. I don't know why. Right. It just irked me. It
didn't I get it.
Little things like that, dude. But see, it's those little things like that give people, that make people look at these movies that are not made by Marvel and go, you don't get it. You don't get it. You just don't get it. I know it's a minor detail, But that's the kind of thing you can't screw up because it just puts that little kink in the armor that makes us go, yeah, no.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
No, I get you. All right, Carl. Which fictional place would you want to visit the most? Adelan, the Savage Land, Atlantis, Asgard, Metropolis, or Gotham City? I definitely don't want to go to Gotham City because I'm not Batman, so I will probably end up dead. I'd have to say probably Asgard.
All right.
The feasts and the mead. And
it's a pretty cool place.
Yeah. I mean, of those choices, my first would probably be Asgard. Second would probably be Atlantis.
I'm not a good swimmer, so I don't think I'd like Atlantis too much.
Metropolis and Adelan. I'm not going near Gotham City or the Savage Land.
No, bad things happen in those places.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Because when in Savage Land, when you're looking straight ahead, that's when the attack comes, not from the front, but from the side, from the two raptors you didn't even know were there.
Wow,
clever girl. Drew.
Yeah.
When Marvel launches Phase 4, who will be the main heroes to lead the cinematic universe? I think we're going to save this one for our Infinity War discussion.
Yeah, don't worry. We're going to talk about all that business in the Infinity War discussion because where we go from here is very much the question at hand.
Where do we go?
Where do we go now?
Also, there's a bonus question for you.
Ooh, I like bonus questions.
Also, if you and Jay were in a symbiotic relationship, who would be the host and who would be the symbiote?
Wait, say again?
If you and Jay were in a symbiotic relationship, who would be the host and who would be the symbiote?
I think I'm the I'm the bad influence, so I'm the symbiote.
Yeah. I can hear you be like, and Jay said, We'll just kill the bad ones.
Yeah.
Come on.
Jay, drink all the beers.
Drink all the beers. Oh, man, the potential.
Just start with one. Okay, now have another one. I want more, Jay. Give me more.
Although, if you were a symbiote, you wouldn't be able to go to rock concerts.
Why not?
Sonics.
Oh. That's true. What about earplugs? I mean, there's got to be some way.
You put an earplug on your body?
What if he put me in some kind of foam apparatus that's like an earplug, but for me?
And what's Jay supposed to do? Go to a concert naked?
He'll wear clothing, but I'll be in his pocket.
I don't think you're thinking that through, but sure, why not?
Okay.
We'll go from there. All right, Jay and Alan, thank you very much for your questions, as always. Now, Drew, it's granted from Thursday, it's been a breakneck pace since Infinity War's release, but just today alone, the stuff that, at least on my behalf, that I've been bombarded with about different things that we like, different things we're passionate about, news coming out on those, has been kind of crazy. But we'll start as we go into our news, or open up the case files for the week. As we start, we're going to state the obvious. Drew, Avengers made some money.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah. And our way to put it would be to say Avengers made all the monies.
That's a much better way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Officially largest opening in movie history.
Mm-hmm.
Almost $500 million domestically. Or not domestic, worldwide.
Worldwide.
Yeah.
That's bananas.
In the first couple days.
And do you know what it almost made in those first couple days? Now that you say that?
What's that?
In those first couple days, it made almost as much as Justice League made in its entire theatrical run.
Any opportunity to jump up and down.
I'm just stating the obvious here.
I know.
Oh, we'll be talking a little bit about that in our review. So, yeah. Anyway.
So the odds of this film being the first to hit $1 billion domestically are currently pretty good.
Do you think that it will have legs to do so?
That's the question. Because you have to have rewatchability.
I think it has it personally, but
I think
that's
it does
getting
too.
into
I want to go back for another ride.
Without getting too deep into it, I want to see it again.
Yeah, because there's so much to take in. So yeah, all right. Moving on, but staying within the same wheelhouse. Drew, today we got a new trailer for Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now, I was surprised that Marvel would drop a new trailer like this so soon after Infinity War. You would think they'd want kind of like all the focus to be on Infinity War right now.
And it is. Like you don't have an opening like that and the acclaim and the discussion and all of the Infinity War is in no danger of being
obviously
overshadowed.
Yeah.
Despite the large shadow that Giant Man can cast.
65-foot
Oh, we'll get to that in a moment. I don't think they have to worry about it. Infinity War is not going anywhere. But for anyone that was maybe concerned that the things got a little too realsies, a little too heavy-handed with Infinity War, here's Ant-Man and Wasp.
Michael Pena.
That trailer, dude, was awesome.
I can't wait for it.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to say, but that looks so cool.
It really does.
It looks so cool.
Like, I have no idea who this villain is, but they look interesting, and
he's Giant Man in the trailer a lot, and he's riding a truck like a skateboard,
like a scooter. He kicks a car.
He kicks a car. Then he stands up in San Francisco Bay and he picks up a boat.
Yeah, and we see our first shots of Lawrence Fishburne.
Lawrence Fishburne looks like he's having fun in a comic book movie.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
You think the Marvel guy just took him in, wrapped the blanket around him?
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's warm.
You want some cocoa?
And there's color here. You want some cocoa?
Have some cocoa.
You can have as many marshmallows as you want.
All the marshmallows.
So, but yeah, he's playing Bill Foster.
As we know, he's Goliath.
Yeah, they name drop Goliath. They name drop Goliath. Yeah, this one looks like it's going to be insanely fun. Yeah, just craziness. What else was it? I mean, Michael Pena again. It's gonna be lighthearted. It's gonna have that kind of tone and take to it. Will be interesting to find out when this film happens chronologically with Infinity War.
It's got to be beforehand, obviously.
Although, if I'm betting, if I'm laying money, I will say I would bet that maybe the end of this film ties into the end of Infinity War. But the thing that happens
just as a reminder,
at the end happens a little bit here.
I could see that. Just Marvel's way of saying, like, we didn't totally forget.
Yeah.
Glad you had fun, but we got to get back to...
by the way.
Yeah, we got to get back to this over here next summer. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. Okay, Drew. So another big thing dropped today.
Oh.
Much more central to me than to you.
Oh, okay.
I didn't mention it because I knew your reaction was going to be amusing. Drew, X-Wing 2.0 was announced today.
Was it now?
Yeah.
So hang on.
You just got the biggest.
Hold on.
Okay.
How cynical am I? Very. Can you use your 1.0 ships in 2.0?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay.
There's a slight caveat. It is fully backwards compatible. There's a slight caveat to it.
All right.
So
they didn't do it. Then full marks to them, because being Star Wars and being a money-making endeavor, I would have thought they're just going to throw caution to the wind and say, here's 2.0. By the way, it's only 2.0. You can't use your old stuff. Buy all the new things.
If they had done that,
you would have bought all the new things.
It would have killed the game.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. I'm of the opinion if they had come out with X-Wing 2.0 and said they're all new models, you cannot use any of your old stuff, it would have killed the game. And they're smart enough to know that, because I would not have gone forward with it. So it's obviously being the big video game fans we are very accustomed to sequels. A game is successful and you anticipate there will be a sequel at one point or another. With board games, it's kind of different though. Board games, tabletop games, sometimes there are sequels in board games, but a lot of times there are second editions.
Right.
To which they go back and kind of retool some of the gameplay. A lot of times with second editions, if there were expansion packs for the board game, they're included in the second edition. With this, they are retooling a lot of the gameplay. They are fixing a lot of things that needed fixing because the initial design of the game was locked into certain parameters at the game's launch. And as the game kind of grew, the game originally came out in 2012. As the game grew from there, gameplay changed, and as gameplay and the meta game, whether it be competitive or casual, changed, some ships kind of got left behind. One of those ships was the classic, what's known as the T-65 X-Wing, the X-Wing that we know from the classic trilogy of films. That ship was not very viable for competitive play anymore. It just didn't have the tools to be a major threat on the table. And the ship, to make it a major threat, would be very expensive. And you could do the same things and more for cheaper with different ships. What they're doing with X-Wing 2.0 is that ships and upgrades do not have point values printed on them. So now a lot of your squad building is going to be done through an app so that they can make adjustments to the point costs to fix the game if something gets too overpowered. They can adjust it for balance reasons. This is mostly for the competitive side. On the casual side, you could just approach it as you want. And here's how all the other stuff stays relevant. When you buy an X-Wing expansion ship, you get the model, you get the stand. There's a piece of cardboard that goes on the stand that identifies the ship and the pilot that comes with the ship. And some of the ship stats are on the cardboard. Then you have your pilot cards and your upgrade cards. And those are the ones that have the printed point value that come with the ship. What they're going to do is when 2.0 comes out, there is a new core set that is kind of common when they do something like this. And then they are going to have what are kind of retrofit kits for the other factions. So there's going to be one for Imperials, one for Rebels, and one for Scum and Villainy. Because not everybody who plays the game buys all the ships. Some people just buy the Imperial ships, whatnot. And these kits will have the new cards, the new cardboard, the new maneuver dials, everything for all the previous ships that came out before.
Wow. All right.
So all the models you bought are still valid. The kits do cost.
Yeah.
They're $50 a pop.
Ooh. That
is expensive, but $50 a pop compared to buying all those ships over again.
That's fair. I get you. Now, So there's going to be new ships coming out in 2.0, I take it, right? All new ones, and
they're reissuing because it's considered an entry point for new players.
Okay.
They're going to be reissuing ships that have already been released with some slight tweaks.
Okay.
For example, the T-65 X-Wing, they just recently came out with a fix for it. And one of the fix was a modification card that indicates what the ship can do when the S-foils are closed and what the ship can do when the S-foils are opened. And there's a new model coming out in which the S-foils physically open and close.
Wow.
There's kind of a better sculpted Y-Wing coming out.
Okay.
So, but you don't have to buy those because your old Y-Wing and X-Wing are just as valid.
will people still play the OG, or is it like 2.0 is kind of, because of tournament play, 2.0 is going to be the new...
2.0 will be the new standard for tournaments, but I'm sure there will still be like, just like in the fighting game community, when you go to a big fighting game tournament...
The old games are still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
There's still like, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Heck, there's still like Ultra Street Fighter 4 tournaments going on. So yeah, I feel that depending on the community, you will have support for the original version. Fantasy Flight is doing more to help foster the competitive community. They're doing more options as like far as the apps for organizing tournament, offering different prizes. There's going to be like prizes for like if you want to do themed tournaments. Like this tournament is going to be Classic Trilogy themed. You can only use ships that were out in the Classic Trilogy, so none of the sequel trilogy stuff. Oh, also, and this is really interesting, within the Rebel faction, you had Rebel, and then after the new films coming out, you had Resistance as like a sub-faction.
Yeah.
They're splitting the Resistance and the First Order off into their own factions.
Okay.
So that's going to be pretty interesting. So all this comes out in September. I'm really excited for the changes they're making and new things they're doing. It's kind of, not totally, but kind of going to put people kind of back on even ground playing wise, because now everyone kind of has to relearn the game. So we'll see what happens.
All right.
Good
luck with all that.
Yeah. I told the wife today.
Yeah, how'd she react?
She was not as thrilled as I was.
I'm sure.
Per se.
Just sit her down in front of Splatoon 2 and then run away.
Because like $40 for the core set, $50 for each retro kit set. And I mean, I can't not get the new X-Wing. It's got has foils that open and close, Drew. Come on.
They're not made of stone.
The Y-Wing's a new skull. It looks cooler.
I mean, you're making sense to me.
See?
I don't know. Good. Have fun. Have a good time.
I will.
All right.
All right, folks. There's nothing else I can think of as far as news goes.
Nope. I'm again, I've been very busy and kind of detached from the news, air quotes, but that's all I can think of.
All right, cool. Let's get on to our interview now. This was recorded earlier with Mr. Dan Larson from Toy Galaxy. Okay, folks, as we mentioned earlier, we have a very special guest in the courthouse this week. For those of you who are listening to our show in the past, you know that Drew and I had the enormous blessing of being able to grow up in the 80s and be part of the 80s toy boom. Drew's burning hatred for the fact that I was somewhat spoiled as a child and had many, many toys, many of which he did not have. Of note, the USS Flag. Mm-hmm. So, I'm sorry, man. We've had this discussion. So, this guest speaks very much to that history between us. If you're familiar with the channel Toy Galaxy on YouTube, we have its host, Mr. Dan Larson. Dan, welcome to the Devil's Due.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the show. I'm welcoming you to your own show here. glad to have you on today, guys.
Oh, it's great to be here.
We're so happy to be here. We are exceedingly happy that you are here with us. I discovered Toy Galaxy not too long ago. I can't even remember what I was searching for on YouTube. And Drew is a huge G.I. Joe fan.
Yes.
And I think it was probably one of your top 10 lists of either like top 10 worst G.I. Joe figures or top 10 worst G.I. Joe vehicles. And I just kind of fell down the rabbit hole from there. So that's how I discovered your channel. But give us, this being somewhat of a comics-oriented show, give us your issue 1. Give us your origin for yourself and Toy Galaxy.
Well, I'm a lifelong collector. Like you, I grew up in the 80s and all that stuff. G.I. Joe, Transformers, GoBots, you name it. I had at least one or a handful of figures from every line there. Just that generation that grew up with those cartoons and that constant media presence of all that pop culture stuff that just won't go away. In the year 2018, we're still mining for movies and TV shows and all the other stuff. So after having collected forever, reading comic books, playing video games, all that stuff, my very good friend Greg and I 3 years ago decided to start a YouTube channel. And I was just, this vault of trivia and action figures and toys and stuff. And he wanted to just make films. He wanted to make videos. He wanted to edit. He wanted to cut stuff. He wanted to run a YouTube channel. And so it was just it was a natural partnership between the two of us, where my love for the stuff and wanting to talk about it and tell jokes and have fun with it, and his just wanting to make things, make videos and post them on YouTube, that it just worked out perfectly. I do the research, I do the writing, I host the show. He puts it all together and makes sure that people can find it and that it looks great.
So I take it that's Greg behind the camera in all the segments where you are laughing to someone off screen.
Exactly. He's standing right next to the camera, making sure that the teleprompter doesn't get too far ahead of me.
One of the things that really hooked me into your show is just not only the production quality, which is obvious to anyone who's watched it, but it's also the kind of the hook you put on it at the end, and the whole, if you see one, get it. If you see two, leave one for another collector. And I think that's a really cool philosophy to have, especially when you approach a collecting standpoint. That's usually not an approach people take. They're like, oh, I see 3, I'm going to buy 3, keep 1, sell 2 for outrageously inflated prices on eBay.
Well, yeah, it was, we were looking for, things early on that we could do that would both speak to the sort of collector audience, but also be different from what other channels or blogs or anything else were doing. A lot of it starts to look the same. There's one channel develops a successful formula, and you see a lot of sort of clones of it, and everybody's sort of doing the same thing. And there's a very sort of low barrier to entry there, right? You just sort of copy what the other people are doing. So we wanted to come at it from a different perspective and offer a different sort of attitude towards the collecting thing, where it wasn't this sort of, selfish, get it all, forget the other guy, don't worry about that. It was like, we all encounter the same stuff. We're all trying to get that one figure. That for us was sort of a way to speak to that person who was feeling that same thing every time they tried to go buy something. It was always gone. If you see one, buy it, and just plant that seed and think about it next time you're there. If there are 2, maybe you leave 1 this time. And, maybe everybody's a little bit happier in this whole collecting thing. Everybody seems so miserable all the time. It's toys. Have some fun.
In 2018, we need more happy.
Exactly.
Definitely. Exactly. So you've got within your channel, you have different, for lack of a better term, shows. Did that kind of evolve naturally, or did you kind of approach that from the outset?
Yeah, that was definitely something that Greg wanted to do from the beginning, was this idea that, there would be this umbrella channel called Toy Galaxy, but within Toy Galaxy, there would be different shows on that channel. And we would intentionally break it up into a series of segments. And originally the idea was to have them on a rotation. The first Tuesday would be this, and you could expect every month the first Tuesday would be this, the next Tuesday would be this, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. Initially we didn't know how many episodes we were going to do per week. We started with just 1. It very quickly became 2, and now it's 3. And probably gonna draw the line there.
That's dedication.
Yeah, it starts to snowball, and you start to see the returns sort of plateau. You don't add, there's no guarantee that every time you add another post that you're going to increase exponentially the amount of views or likes or subscribers or anything that you get. So we hit that 3 shows a week, and that worked for our production schedule. We just kind of drew the line there. But yeah, it was always the intent to be able to move around. We didn't want to get stuck in just like, nope, we're doing another video, just queue up the exact same template we used last time, and we're always trying to find more new ways to communicate this information. Again, every show is just about here's a toy, or here's a toy line, or here's a show that's about a toy or a toy line, and just trying to present it in a different way, different ways that, you, Drew, you might connect to one particular kind of presentation. Carl, you might connect to a different presentation. Some people really like the history ofs. Some people prefer the 4 minutes or less. And ultimately, we can bring in both of those types of viewers.
So you have a very distinct sense of humor that comes through in both the scripting and the editing. It also speaks to production quality. Is like how often would you say the moments are unscripted moments of creativity, or how many do you kind of look at before you start shooting? So, okay, we're going to do this kind of joke here and cut it this way.
It's funny, if we actually had more time to do pre-production, there would be, I think it would be an even more sort of elaborate setup for the entertainment and the comedy. The way it works right now is producer Greg and I will discuss, okay, what do we want to shoot this week? Okay, we're going to shoot this Vision action figure, whatever, and so that's where he sort of walks away from it, and then it's left to me to figure everything out from there on. So I will go and write a script, and over the course of the 3 years that the tone sort of developed, I know I'm writing for myself. I'm the person that's going to be performing the script and reading it in front of the teleprompter, so I can write it in my own voice. That's that's the voice I know best, and so I will intentionally try to put scripted jokes in there. But then when the night that we shoot rolls around, we'll do a read through, and there will be some spontaneous moments that come out of that. My primary goal at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, is to make Greg laugh. He's my live he's my live audience. I'm sure it works the same for you guys.
Yeah.
You're hoping that other people will listen, but
we know what buttons to push.
Exactly, and you're in the room with each other, and that's who you got to key off of. So, when it's just Greg and I'm trying to make him laugh. So then, we shoot the thing, and sometimes the additional spontaneous things will happen. I write the script, we'll do a read through, and some spontaneous things happen there that I'll try to re-spontaneous, while we're shooting it, try to act like it was a spontaneous thing. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. We have to cut it. Other times, just actual spontaneous things will happen. I'll be reading the script, and now that I've read it through 4 or 5 times, I'll think of something that I hadn't thought of before. Or with Greg standing there, there'll be something else that'll just, occur to me, and that's where I might just look off and say something. And I think, if you've seen multiple episodes, you can start to pick up on, just in terms of my own personal performance, what are the things that I am acting surprised at that's part of the script versus the things that actually hit me as a real, spontaneous sort of surprise. And then Greg will do the same thing. We'll shoot the footage. He then takes it home and he will edit the videos together. And his main goal is to try to make me laugh at the end of the day. So whenever you see like any of the cut-ins, the pictures, the Photoshop images, the text that pops up on screen, the musical cues, all that stuff, fart noises, whatever, that's him. I don't see that stuff until the video is actually up. So I'm watching it new just the same way you might. So, it's this game of I got to try to make him laugh. He's got to try to make me laugh. And then we're hoping that when we put that out in front of everybody else, you guys laugh too.
That's awesome. I like the fact that you leave in some of the ad libs and some of the fumbles, if you will, and
absolutely
they're edited. But Greg apparently edits them in such a way where they become that much more entertaining. So that's
exactly. Cool. Well, if you dig back far enough in the archive, there are 4 or 5 outtake episodes. And initially we were doing, we would shoot the episodes and there'd be some outtakes, and then as one of those extra videos each week, he might throw out a little, outtakes reel. And those were funny and whatever, and they were nice. But what ended up happening was that we were shooting so frequently and we were getting so comfortable with the whole process that there weren't that many more outtakes. We didn't have enough outtakes for him to actually cut together outtake shows. And so he just started leaving in a few outtakes here and there where they fit, where he thought they fit in terms of the humor and the entertainment. Of just leaving that in, and it ended up being a great decision, and it has become part of the personality of the channel.
Was there, because when we started the show and I approached Drew about it, I had said to him that the show had to be family friendly, and he kind of bumped up hard against that because he had a previous show that. A little more blue in the language, shall we say? A little. Was there, and your channel is definitely family friendly and PG. Was that a conscious decision or just kind of the way it fell out?
A little bit of both there. before we did the channel, I spent, my education is in illustration and drawing, and I was all set to be a professional comic book artist drawing Punisher for Marvel growing up, but that just didn't work out. I ended up doing a lot of self-published comics work, writing and drawing my own stuff, daily comic strips. I had the whole website, and my goal in that creative endeavor was always to try to reach the largest audience possible. At the end of the day, it's a financial thing, and you want to make money. So I was always trying to appeal to the largest audience possible. So I would intentionally, self-censor in terms of language, in terms of content, all that stuff. I would get teased by my friends, like, oh, Dan always has to make stuff that his mom can read. And it's like, well, yeah, I would like her to be able to, I would like her to be proud of me. I would like, I don't want to be embarrassed about, the stuff that I'm producing.
Exactly.
And that's just me, and I don't judge anybody else who makes that decision any differently. There are lots of very talented people who I'm sure their moms are proud of whatever they're doing because they're happy and successful and whatever. But when it came time to do the channel, it was that same sort of thing. We were looking at YouTube and how YouTube works and what the algorithms and the metrics and all that stuff is, and said, we can either limit ourselves to an audience dropping F-bombs all the time and talking just about adult things, or we can make sure that our videos can show up. There's a lot of kids that are watching YouTube,
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, and advertisers want to put their products in front of them, and so we said, yeah, we want to make sure we can appeal to everybody, and we don't want to get flagged for language or content or any of that stuff. So it was partially on my part, sort of an insistence of saying, like, I would really prefer to be in this PG-G sort of range. And then on the other side of it, Greg, sort of looking at the business and saying, I think it's the right business move.
All right. See, Drew? It works.
Yeah.
I think you just won some even further extra points with Drew saying he drew the Punisher, because Drew is a huge Punisher.
Yes, we are a Daredevil show, but the Punisher is my other favorite character in the Marvel pantheon.
And since I haven't listened to the full breakdown of the Punisher episodes, I'm going to assume you've liked the presentation of the Punisher on Netflix?
Well, yes and no.
Is that a rabbit hole we don't need to go down right now?
No.
Yeah.
I'm happy to dive. It's mostly good. I'm a big fan of the very intent and clear directive version written by Garth Ennis, and I felt like the show kind of softened that quite a bit.
We felt ultimately the show had a lot of good moments, and a lot of the changes they made to the character were kind of necessary to introduce the character to a new viewing audience. But at our hearts, we'd kind of hoped that they would steered more towards the more comic-centric version. But at the same time, I mean, and this is more me than Drew, I understand that, like, that version isn't necessarily an appealing protagonist to a mass audience. So
yeah, it's a tough character for them to handle right now, politically, with society where it is right now and all the gun violence and whatever. So I'm just shocked that it exists.
Yeah,
in any form.
No, I'm happy it exists. I'm still waiting for that perfect off the page Garth Ennis, Louis LaRosa, Goran Parlov Punisher to show up.
Sure, yeah.
But
so
anyway,
what were your takes on the series?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and it's hard, you spend so much of your life dreaming about, like, and it's a silly thing, whatever. It's entertainment, it's pop culture, but you dream about, like, when Jim Lee was back working on Punisher War Journal, and back in the day, you're reading this stuff and you're thinking, man, what would a TV show be like? What would a movie be like? And this Dolph Lundgren thing comes out, and you're like, I don't know what that is, but I'm not. That's not the Punisher. And the Thomas Jane and Warzone, and you're like, this is interesting. That's got some good stuff, but you just never expect to actually see it happen. So when the Netflix version came out, it was believable enough for me, and quote unquote real enough for me, and I bought into John Bernthal's performance and the world that the Daredevil season 1 had already created. It just brought me all in, and I was like, well, maybe this isn't the perfect version of Jim Lee's whatever Punisher or Will's Portacio's, but I'm in this world. and that guy makes sense to me, and I'm really enjoying this. And that's pretty much just what I took from it.
Cool. All right, let's talk some toys. Now, we're going to kind of jump all over the place here. One place I do want to start out has been the aforementioned point of contention between me and Drew, in that I had a USS Flag and he did not. And I have said to Drew numerous times that, yes, I had one, but ultimately, maybe this is kind of a hot take and it's not intended to be. Ultimately, it wasn't that great a toy, because you didn't so much play with it, you kind of played around it.
That's the real revelation about that thing, 25 years later, is that it was just a table.
It really was.
It was just a big plastic table.
Like we had it set up on a little kiddie pool table, and that is where it stayed until the day it was disassembled and given away to someone else. Funny story, I actually had a friend of mine who lived down the street also had one, and
what neighborhood did you live in?
Listen, dude, we have covered this. I was a spoiled brat when I was a kid, and I lived in an upper scale neighborhood. It's not the case anymore, and I'm kind of glad, because spoiling your kids is a terrible idea. There was a kid who lived down the street from me who also had one, and he decided one day to take his in his pool. His logic was, all the G.I. Joe boat toys up to this point have floated. This should float. And I'm sure you can assume, it turned into a scene from Pearl Harbor.
Well, see, that's the thing is, I don't think most people realize, because like you just said, you think it's another boat toy. Like any other boat toy, but I was able to actually assemble one not too long ago. I was able to purchase one probably about 3 years ago, I think it was, maybe 4 years ago. Complete, might have been missing like a deck clip or something. And as I'm assembling it, it's like, this isn't a watertight thing. It's like the hull of the boat isn't even. It's not even a complete boat.
It's not a hull. It's just like a skeletal
it's literally
structure.
Exactly. It's like 8 bracer frame parts, and then literally a long strip of plastic that just wraps around one side. So it's just an illusion. It's an optical illusion of a boat, but it really is just a table. Beyond anything else. And that's the first thing that hits you, is just the sheer size of the thing. Like I remember, just 3-4 years ago, pulling out the deck plates, the deck parts, and laying them out on the carpet and just being like, my goodness, this thing is enormous. And then assembling it and going, my goodness, this isn't a boat. This isn't going to float. There's no way.
We're not going to need a bigger boat.
You can't put it in water because it's not designed to be a floating thing. It's just designed to support those deck pieces and the tower, So and when I look at it now through adult eyes, I say, man, that is a clever way to build that thing, to design it, to be able to say you built this boat. Just make a table. Sell people 7 feet worth of plastic.
They were training kids at a young age to prepare for life as adults with IKEA.
It really is. That's what it is. That's all it is. And now I look at it and say, how do I make that actually into a table that I can use? How do I how do I mount those deck pieces to the wall and put bookshelves underneath it?
Well, I guess there's I saw there are a couple of videos on YouTube. Someone actually designed an undercarriage to it that makes it more functional, under deck storage and whatnot, and lighting. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it makes it a bit taller. You can store some vehicles and stuff on there. I've seen people who've built bases that have wheels on the bottom of it, so you can actually make the thing, pull it out, get it out of the way if you need to. And there's a picture that makes the rounds every once in a while on Instagram or the Facebook or whatever. And the kid's dad basically took the deck pieces and affixed them to insulation foam. Just like big pieces of insulation foam, and then at that point you could actually put it in the water. So it's a picture.
That's awesome.
It's a picture of the flag with the tower, and there's a sky striker on it, and it's floating in the pool. And it doesn't help because people already think that's what it can do, and they're like, oh my gosh, now. And it's like, no, you got to be clear, that's on foam. He took the extra step, mounted it on the foam, and floated it in the pool. Great dad. That is a great dad right there, but it's that you couldn't actually do that.
So I shudder to ask, what is a USS Flag fetching nowadays on the collector's market?
You know, it's come way down.
Really?
5-6 years ago, it was pushing $1,500, $2,000. But you could get. The problem is you can't ship it. You can't. Nobody wants to pay the shipping cost. So if you're going to eBay or Amazon or something, or even Facebook, you're probably going to want to find a local seller so you can just go pick it up because. Or you're going to want to just build it piece by piece, like buy the deck parts from one person, buy the supports from somebody else, and then slowly start to fill in the more expensive pieces. I'm pretty sure the last time I checked, you could get a complete one for like $1,000 or less, like $750, $800. Which is
still
it's not the cheapest thing you could buy.
A far cry from the original. I think it was like $110 sticker.
Yeah, it was right around there.
Madness.
But in today's money, that would be like $250, $300, right?
Easily.
Something like that.
Easily.
That's crazy. So, sticking in the realm of G.I. Joe, Drew, is there any Joe topics?
I guess we're kind of in a Joe-less time right now, and I know you had a video up recently about this topic, and I'm wondering, do you think G.I. Joe's gonna resurface in the toy world?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a matter of time, really, or
absolutely. Yeah, I really think they've just been stuck. I just think they're in the on deck circle while Hasbro tries to figure out what this whole shared universe thing is that they're trying to. They've been talking about it for years.
Yeah,
Transformers, Micronauts, Mask, who knows, whatever. And I think I think they could get a team to do it and get that movie out in theaters within a year if they weren't stuck in the pre-production process of all this other nonsense.
Do you think it's a good idea that they pursue the whole interconnected thing?
I would prefer not, no.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Because I know as a kid, it was an interesting idea as a kid to have G.I. Joe and Transformers, that occasional crossover. But now it's like, no, I like my Joes over here, and I like my Transformers way over here, and never the twain shall meet if we can avoid it.
It's far too limiting, I mean, yeah, I guess you can make the argument, and the IDW comics have really tried to sort of show that the G.I. Joe and Transformers and the hybrid in the middle is Mask. It all makes sense in terms of explaining how the technologies can coexist with each other. Sure, that's fine, but it's very limiting from a storytelling perspective. You then end up with all three universes constrained by that one universe and trying to make sure that all is taking place in the same place. So if something is happening in New York in one universe, it's got to be happening in New York for all the universes. Yeah. Instead of just letting G.I. Joe go do whatever maybe the best G.I. Joe story that can be told right now is set in the Vietnam era. Do we need Transformers in the Vietnam era? Might be a cool story, but let's just stick with the G.I. Joe stuff. Let Mask go do whatever Mask needs to do to tell its story of creation and how those machines work. And if that doesn't jibe with what Transformers is, fine. let's just have 3 successful franchises instead of one that's just too complicated. I love what Marvel has done, obviously. I love that DC's trying, but it makes sense for those. It's not like you're trying to merge, the Marvel universe with the NFL. Just keep these separate things separate.
Although G.I. Joe did merge with the NFL on some level.
It's true.
Captain Gridiron and Marvel also.
Well, and Marvel
NFL
had
Super Pro.
Yep.
Oh, jeez. Just had a 90s flashback. Not a good one either. So, okay, interesting question. So you said that, you feel that G.I. Joe is on deck. Toy lines today toy lines targeted at kids are extremely different today than they were back in our day. Like in our day, the line, like taking G.I. Joe, for example, you had figures, you had vehicles, you had some vehicles came with figure. There was a lot of diversity in the line. It was fairly easy to replicate what you saw in the cartoon with the toys. Toy lines today for kids don't quite seem to be that way. So what's your kind of like your take on that? Am I off base?
I think there's a couple issues there. One is cartoons themselves have changed as far as what they are allowed to be in terms of content directed at kids. I'm sure you guys are familiar with, I think it was in the 90s, the early 90s, that there was legislation that basically said for every 30 minutes of children's programming, there had to be X number of minutes that were dedicated to educational programming. And so it there was the wide open regulations of the 80s that really allowed this era of pop culture to thrive, where you've seen all the stories about how the Transformers and G.I. Joe, they're just 30-minute commercials for toys for kids, and it's true, that's what they were. And the adult generations was seeing that as a harmful thing. The kids who didn't know any better were just going like, hey, it's a cartoon about robots and I like that, and it's working because I do want to buy the toys. But you don't see that as a negative or harmful thing. That obviously, legislation comes out, the regulations get pulled, and that changes, and now you have to sort of balance your what you're directing at kids' time. Now throw the monkey wrench of the internet and YouTube, and the fact that you can't even keep kids' attention centered in one place anymore. It's I don't even have we cut the cable a while ago as far as regular broadcast TV is concerned. My wife and I watch YouTube and Netflix and Hulu or whatever else. It's like there's very little shared common content other than the movies. So who can put the money into actually producing a cartoon to try to specifically sell toys specifically to kids? A lot of this stuff as it exists right now is still targeting the same audience that it used to target, and that's us, the adults now.
Yeah.
That's why the 80s just won't go away, because they're still selling to the same people. So there's not a lot of room in the market for other brands to try to pick it up. Because they're not conducive to that traditional means of action figure playset, vehicle. That's not what kids are looking for. And that's not to say that the kids today with their video games. It is to say some of that kids today with their video games. Minecraft is bigger than G.I. Joe's ever been, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was hanging out with my nephew the other day. All he wanted to do was play Fortnite, I don't even know what Fortnite is.
Listen, join the club. Our age is kind of starting to betray
exactly.
us a little bit.
So yeah, I think an action figure line with playsets, vehicles, action figures, it'll sell to me just great. But I don't know that it's going to hook a 10-year-old anymore.
That's a bummer. That is a bummer.
But I'll be honest, I don't know a lot of 10-year-olds.
Well, I have a big family, and I see kids a lot, and it seems like they're glued to their phones and they're glued to Minecraft, and Fortnite. The kids play Fortnite, the adults play PUBG. So
exactly, yes, right.
But that's a bummer. I miss as a kid getting the toy, and not just having the figure, but then looking on the back of the box. And on the back of the box, there was, at least in G.I. Joe anyway, there was the whole wave. Like a checklist. Like, these are all the other figures that you have to go out and buy too. And, that's smart, because that made me want all of them. And I tried to get as many as I possibly could. But it made me that much more invested in the world and in the figures and the lore and yada yada. And I feel like toy lines today don't necessarily have that collect. I don't know. I go to Walmart or Target or whatever, and I pick up a figure. I look on the back of the box, and half the time there is no other figures on it. It's just like, here's your totally one figure.
Right. Yep, you're totally right, and it's very frustrating. Not just from a nostalgic standpoint, but from isn't this the whole point of this? The packaging, you're supposed to do that cross sell. You're supposed to show, here's all the other stuff you should also buy. Right. When you pick up this figure, pick up some of this other stuff too, and you end up with these sort of generic card backs and generic packaging that I get the economics of it. You don't want to have to print a French card and a Japanese card and all 10 different languages. So you just print the one card with all the languages on it, and you can ship that card worldwide, and you just you just saved a lot of money. I get that, but from the cross sell point of view, it's weird. I don't, why don't you show more of the, you can pick up whatever Star Wars figure just came out, from Solo or whatever. You're exactly right. You're not going to see the rest of the wave on the back. You don't even know what else, how many other figures are even in the line. You don't even know.
I also think, do you feel that there's a little bit less variety in the figure market than there used to be? Like, when we were kids, obviously, there were all sorts of crazy lines. Like, you had Thundercats and Transformers and Visionaries and Silverhawks and all these really wacky concepts. But now it's like, if it's not based on an established brand, it doesn't exist.
Well, there's certainly some of that. Obviously, there's very little risk in established brands. Hasbro doesn't have to spend a lot of money to tell you who any of these characters are, because they're also ingrained in mass mass market pop culture right now. But the other thing to keep in mind is that in 1984 and 1985, you're talking about 6 or 7 or 8 different toy companies that are all competing in that one market. And at this point, they've all been purchased by Hasbro. So Hasbro is Hasbro's not looking to compete with themselves any more than they already are. They've already got, although just today, they had already purchased the Power Rangers license to make the toys.
I just saw this, yeah.
Now they own the whole brand. So now you've got Power Rangers, Transformers, Star Wars, and Marvel superheroes all in one place. Is there any motivation for them to try to introduce something new? Why?
Getting crowded.
Why bother? It's basically down to Hasbro with the 4 biggest brands. Mattel has DC. Playmates has got the Ninja Turtles, and then I'm not sure who's doing like Ben 10 and that sort of stuff. But that's it. There's nothing else out there. You have NECA selling toys to the adult collectors, and I don't know. Hot Wheels is still doing fine, I guess.
Do you think that companies like Hasbro are likely to funnel more R&D and product development into sort of a line aimed more at the adult collector, because that's kind of the safer money than like a new kids line?
Yeah, well, that was sort of the original intent of their 6-inch Black Series line. When that was introduced, the whole idea was, a $20 price point for an action figure was unheard of. That was twice the price of what you'd expect to be paying for anything. So the first wave of Star Wars Black Series figures, I think it was 2013, had 4 figures in it, and they were $20 each, and that was like a whew. You can only do this with Star Wars because only Star Wars fans are going to be, crazy enough to spend that much money. Now, meanwhile, Hasbro was already doing it with, Marvel Legends, and that price had been creeping up from 15 to 20. But that's just the going rate now. If you're a parent with kids, who are into action figures, you're spending $15 or $20 minimum. So what is an adult collector figure now? $30, $40? What are we talking about here? I don't. It's hard to say. I don't see Hasbro going even further with that price, but I don't know. I just got the Dewback, which was $60. So.
Kind of in that vein, but not really. How do you feel about some of the, like Hasbro, for instance, kickstarting sets and vehicles? I think the Jabba's sail barge was the one that they got kickstart. Now, speaking personally, like, you're Hasbro. Why do you need to kickstart this? Either make it or don't. The market's going to be there regardless. It's Star Wars. I feel it's a little weird.
I think it comes back to the economics of it and the amount of risk that they're willing to take on for a thing. I'm sure they've been burned before by fans who are like, give us this, we want this thing. And then they're like, oh, okay, let's make the thing. And the fans are like, we didn't really want it that bad. They just didn't know. They didn't really have a good way to gauge how many pieces they could realistically move. It almost, Mattel had their Masters of the Universe Classics line that it almost tanked at the beginning because you had a very passionate fan base of He-Man fans who really wanted a modern line, but Mattel wasn't sold on it yet, so they had to take a lot of risks early on. They established this subscription service to insulate themselves, to protect themselves from taking that risk of making this thing that they really weren't sure they were actually going to be able to sell. And so, I see the people, the fans and stuff who are saying, Hasbro, you're a multi-billion-dollar, corporation. You should be able to make this thing. And it's like, well, I don't blame them. Whatever you can do from a business standpoint to reduce the amount of risk you have in creating a thing, why not throw it out there? I didn't think there was any way that thing was getting funded. I did not think there were enough people who were going to throw down $500 to buy that thing.
Did you see the name Star Wars?
It's $500.
Did you see the name Star Wars?
I like Star Wars a lot, but not $500 a lot. There was no way I was going in on that. Did either of you go in on it?
No.
Okay, well. I thought that was pushing it. I thought that was too high a price for that. But hey, I this is the thing. If I had been in the room, I would have been like, guys, I don't know if this is a good idea. I think the Kickstarter model is the way to go here. That way, there's no risk. You're taking your whatever time and money you had to put into the R&D side of that, developing it, creating the prototype, if that's all you spent to find out that wasn't, you're testing two things here. Is that specific item something that the fans want, and are they willing to pay that much for it? And B, is this a viable way that we can start to create a product, and can we take this further? Now, they just did the sail barge. What's next year? What are they going to come up with next year? A quarter of a Death Star? Like, I don't know.
It's going to put the flag to shame, man.
Yeah, we're going to start doing build a Death Star.
Oh, I don't even want to think about the price.
So, I think it's an interesting thing, and I don't think it's something that they could have even attempted, 5 years ago. I think, with Patreon and Kickstarter and crowdfunding and all this stuff, why not? Why not take a crack at it? I'm sure somebody at Hasbro was like, let's try this, And they said, yeah, give it a shot. Why not? What's the worst that could happen?
It's like a spinning off of that, but sort of related. Do you have a favorite hidden gem toy line that is no longer in production that you would back via Kickstarter, or that you'd like to see return to the market?
I try to support the independents as much as I can, and there have been several Kickstarters recently that have been focused at either carrying on the spirit of a defunct line, or actually acquiring a license and trying to bring back that line. Marauder Task Force is an independent action figure company that basically does 3 3/4 inch, G.I. Joe style figures. They were designed by people that worked at Hasbro, and they have an interchangeable body system, basically, like where you have like snap-on armor pieces and stuff. So you can change helmets, you can change guns, holsters, all that stuff, and it's carrying on the spirit of G.I. Joe in a market where G.I. Joe just isn't existing. There's no vehicles and no playsets or anything, but you can go and order customized figures. They've got the entire range of colors, styles, custom different heads and all that stuff. And then on the other end of that, you have Zika Toys, who just a few months ago successfully funded a Kickstarter for Sectars. I don't know if you remember that line.
I remember
back in the day. The bug people, and they had the hand puppet mounts.
Yep.
They acquired the license and did a Kickstarter, and these are officially licensed Sectars figures. They're 3 3/4 inch action figures, so they're like modern G.I. Joes. And at this early stage, because they're still just trying to figure this thing out, there's no hand puppet mounts. There's the potential to go there at some point, play sets, whatever. But right now it was like, look, let's just see if we can get 4 figures made.
Yeah.
And it got funded, and we'll see where it goes. I supported that. But as far as any specific line, would I love to see Centurions come back? Of course I would. Would I love to see Mask come back? Absolutely. They snuck Matt Tracker into the 25th anniversary G.I. Joe line, and I was beside myself. Like, Matt Tracker is like one of my all-time favorite, like childhood hero action figures that I was like, I can't believe this thing exists. I can't believe this thing is real. Tiny helmet, race car that turns into a jet or whatever, seatbelt, whatever. Like, I could not believe that they had rolled him into 25th anniversary G.I. Joe and that we were going to see a modern Matt Tracker. It blew me away. So, yeah, I'd love to see Mask. I'd love to see that whole thing come back. But there's nothing like super obscure. I like all action figures so much that I'm like, whatever you put in front of me, it's like, oh, okay, I'll take that, sure, whatever.
It's fresh on my mind because I watched the episode recently on Toy Galaxy of I'm all in on a Cops revival. That was a great toy line, and I still have actually like all of my original Cops figures, and that line was great. Those figures were excellent. So yeah, someone needs to bring that back. That line ruled. It was so imaginative.
And the revelation that Cops existed in the G.I. Joe world.
Did
right,
it?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Larry Hama was.
That's right. That's right.
Wrote the cards and stuff. Yeah, that was a tidbit. That was something I didn't know until I did the research, and I found that particularly fascinating. Yeah, it's there's always that line of when do we let go? When do we just move on and say, just create some new stuff, please? Like all right, fine, G.I. Joe, Transformers, I get it, Star Wars, all right, where's the new stuff? As much as I love these things, as much as I appreciate that they're trying to sell everything to me, I do appreciate it. I also recognize that it's harmful to to innovation. It's harmful to creativity. It's harmful to, generations coming up with their own heroes and their own mythology and letting that stuff grow and expand. We're in a cycle now where there's a Star Wars movie coming out every single year and like 3 Marvel movies every single year for the rest of our lives,
Or until it dips below the profit threshold.
And where's that? I don't know. It's still going pretty strong.
It sure is.
So there's something that kind of bugs me. Now, G.I. Joe was Drew's favorite toy line growing up. Transformers was mine. And having had a good number of Transformers and fond memories of them, but now I see these third-party companies making these freaking incredible new Generation 1 Transformer figures that are exactly how they appeared in the cartoon and on the comics, and they're fully functioning Transformers. Dan, where were these when we were kids? Because my Ratchet and Ironhide did not look like Ratchet and Ironhide.
No, and there's two issues there. One is if you're familiar with if you're not familiar, please go watch our History of Transformers video. If you're not familiar with it, basically what happens is Takara in Japan creates Diaclone and Micro Change. They're 2 different lines of toys. Toy buyer from Hasbro in 1982, 1983 goes to Japan Toy Fair, sees these toys, licenses the toys to the U.S., and then immediately, puts the art department to work and says, let's create a new mythology. Let's tie all these toys together. We need a cartoon. We need comic books. We need all the stuff. So it doesn't matter that the toys necessarily match the animation or the character models, because the character models were designed after the fact. The toys that exist now are being designed to match the character models. So yeah, they're going to Ironhide's going to look like Ironhide instead of whatever that is. It's weird. He doesn't have a face. He doesn't even have a head.
But he was arms, legs, and a windshield.
Yeah, and then like a airplane. Like a little boat that he sat in. Yeah, and that's sort of the cause and effect there. Now the other side of that is what has happened since then, where Hasbro isn't willing or isn't capable of stopping that. Where's the legal line where they, as far as I can tell, have basically just thrown in the towel and said, we're not going to try to stop this anymore.
Yeah, it's like, these companies that are making these new versions of figures, obviously they don't call them by their names. Like what's clearly Starscream, they'll label as like Star Crier or something like that. But just the engineering that goes into them is astounding.
Oh, it's incredible. And that's, again, I come back to why can't they come up with their own stuff? Can their designs maintain the popularity and the sales if it's not leeching off of somebody else's intellectual property? Yeah. Do they have the strength to actually create an original IP of their own and make something, or does it all fall apart if Hasbro finally does say, you know what, stop this?
Yeah. In some ways they are kind of getting creative within the IP, because I think it was like last week or something, I tagged you in a picture on Twitter that some company made a combiner Dinobots, and they showed them in the combined form. I was like, this thing is mind-blowing. Where was this when I was a kid? I would have had this thing fighting Predaking all day.
On the flag.
Oh, sure.
On the flag.
So what has happened?
And you know what, Drew? Just to rub a little salt in it, I would have mounted the Terror Dome on the flag, too.
Yeah.
There's some pretty good Cobra customs of the flag out there. But what I would say about the third-party thing is this idea that they are pushing Hasbro to be more creative, to put a little bit more engineering into their stuff. A lot of what Hasbro has done in the last several years has been influenced, if not straight up stealing from the third-party engineers. And you'll see fans go like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Hasbro stole this elbow design or this joint or this transformation from whatever third party. And it's like, no. you don't get anything. You don't get to own anything if you based your whole sales of your item off of stealing their intellectual property. It's kind of like,
okay, all right, we have an unspoken agreement. You're our unofficial R&D, and
exactly.
We'll just we'll turn a blind eye when you're putting out the coolest Constructicon set ever created.
Yeah, and the third party companies proved that there was a market for a ridiculously huge Devastator, and then so after 3-4 years of watching all these third-party companies put out huge Devastators, Hasbro took a crack at their own. And same with the Dinobots. The third-party companies have been doing Dinobot combiners for 2 or 3 years now, and so this year Hasbro decided, we're going to put out our own now. And you can go buy Grimlock and Snarl and Slag and Sludge and combine them all as official, Hasbro Dinobots now.
Wow.
And I think that was the picture you tagged me in. Was actually the official Hasbro one.
That's pretty incredible. What was your favorite toy line as a kid? What's the one that still holds that top slot in your heart?
I would say my favorite figure of all time is vintage Boba Fett, just 3 3/4 inch Boba Fett, classic one. Just that's if you spend any time with Toy Galaxy, that's no secret.
Oh, the Boba Fett is an epic delight to behold.
And as far as favorite line is concerned, I really loved Mask as a kid. It hit a lot of the things. I mean, G.I. Joe, I don't know. I loved them all. Like, G.I. Joe was probably number one. Mask is like 1A. G.I. Joe, there was just so much more stuff, more vehicles, more play sets, more figures. And it was just such a great, diverse, all kinds of weapons, all kinds of characters, all kinds of, helmets and guns and backpacks and shields and stuff, and ninjas and soldiers and pilots. And, it hit everything. So I would probably say G.I. Joe 1, Mask 1A, and then everything else is tied for number 2.
And what's your current of the current toy lines out? What's your current favorite?
I have no idea. I mean, most of what I buy is Hasbro Black Series and Hasbro Marvel Legends. I've always been a Star Wars fan. I've always been a Marvel fan. That's not to say that I don't love DC. I just don't particularly care for what Mattel is doing with a lot of the stuff right now. I'm not a big fan of the current, films within the DC extended universe. So I'm not going to love toys that are being made, out of those versions of those characters. But I bounce around, whatever catches my eye. But yeah, I would say like 80% of what I buy right now is Marvel Legends and Black Series.
The Aquaman video, the recent one you did, was freaking hysterical. The whole philosophy of the video of why do I own multiple Aquaman?
Hey man, the guy got a bad rap for so long, and it's like Rob Liefeld. At a certain point, you just got to say, hey, you know what? Enough is enough. Like, there's a reason. There's some longevity there, and yeah, we can all make jokes, but Aquaman's been around a lot longer than all of us, and he's going to be around long after we're gone.
It's like that famous line from Wayne's World: "I don't own a gun, let alone many guns to necessitate a gun rack,
an aqua rack."
An aqua rack.
Very nice.
There you go.
Very nice.
Well, Dan, you've been incredibly generous with your time. We can't thank you enough. Please, by all means, tell our listeners where they can find you in the multimedia verse, where they can find Toy Galaxy. Please hawk your wares, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. YouTube.com/Toy Galaxy TV. That is 3 years running. We just, in April, passed 3 years. We just recently passed, I think, 56,000 subscribers, so that was pretty neat. And we've got like over 450, it's probably like 460 videos, so plenty of time that you can spend catching up on videos. I'm on Instagram. That's my primary social media, at Toy Galaxy. But then I am also on Twitter, Toy Galaxy Dan. And then I think producer Greg's Twitter is Toy Galaxy TV. Follow us both over there. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/Toy Galaxy TV, I think. But I don't log in there as much as I used to. I'm not really in love with Facebook right now. So Instagram and YouTube are the best places to go. Oh, and of course, we're on Patreon, patreon.com/Toy Galaxy.
All righty. Sir, thank you again for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And you have an open invitation to return anytime.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Once again, thank you very much to Mr. Dan Larson of Toy Galaxy for giving us the time, not only in this episode and our Infinity Wars episode coming up. Great interview, great guy to talk to. Please, by all means, go and check out his YouTube channel. They do really good work, and I don't say that lightly. This guy and his producer put a lot of work into these videos, and the quality is there.
Yeah, his channel is great. So even if you have if you're into our show, the odds are you're going to be very much the demographic for Toy Galaxy.
Yeah.
So dive in and have a good time.
Yeah. Check them out. Give them a follow. Support their channel. And support us. How do we do that, Carl? Well, I'm glad you asked. You can find us on Twitter at Devils Do Pod. You can go to facebook.com/Devils Do Pod. You can email us at thedevilsdopod@gmail.com, or you can find all these resources available to you on our website, thedevilsdopodcast.com. Drew, anything to add?
No, I think I think I'm ready to parlay us over to a very big episode that I'm psyched to talk about.
Yeah.
So, stay tuned, kiddies.
Folks, we'll see you in a couple days when we go into Infinity Wars. Colts adjourned.